Now the Friday news. But first, a blatant use of my kitten to shill for subs. Please subscribe to my vlog. Make this kitten happy. Hello, it's the OGGM, and it's Friday in most corners of the world. It's the 26th day of August 2022. My face is a mess. This is what you get when you have a kitten that decides to crawl across your face. And it's, time to take a look at the Friday news. Not much going on in the gaming world. We have some very, very, very late Gen Con news regarding the playtest for the new Mazes role-playing game. Mazes is another system-neutral fantasy OSR thing that's getting some buzz. We've got another interview with the Coyote and Crow guy who just can't seem to just... Speaking of people who just need to hire a press agent, because just every time this guy opens his mouth or posts a tweet or an article, he just digs that hole deeper. Considering, the thing isn't even technically out yet, it just nonsense of just the negativity and everybody's racist. Nobody's buying my game because they're racist. Yeah, the entire planet is not out to specifically get you, Coyote and Crow guy. Maybe it's you. Maybe some of this is on you. Maybe just a teeny bit. Maybe you just need to rethink some of the things you've said over the past years. Because, we don't buy your game, we're racist. If we buy your game and we don't play it right, we're racist. If we buy your game and never play it, we're racist. If we buy your game and complain about it, we're racist. If we don't buy your game, we're racist. If we say anything positive about your game, we're racist. If we say anything negative about your game, we're racist. No matter what we do in regards to Coyote and Crow, if you are breathing on the planet Earth and you have ever mentioned the words Coyote or Crow or role-playing game, ever, for any reason whatsoever, you're racist. Oh, look, there's a crow. Oh, damn it, I'm racist. Okay, so that guy's in the news. And finally, speaking of racism, we knew I was going to have to address this one. It's sort of, I don't know. I think I'm run out of outrage for Wizards of the Coast. I have no spoons left. It's too many cooks, I think. And Wizards of the Coast trying to make too many people happy. And in their attempts to appease everyone, they're just continuing to self-destruct. We talked about this yesterday when we talked about Hasbro restructuring and the sort of inevitable fall of Wizards of the Coast. And it continues. The accusations of racism against Wizards of the Coast are astounding, considering how much Wizards of the Coast has tried over the past 5 years to not be racist and be more inclusive and address the needs of the multiple individuals who play Dungeons and Dragons, to get past the racist history of D&D in the 80s. Of course, at no point in time was D&D ever racist. Individuals can be racist, sure. I'm sure there were people who were made to feel unwelcome at D&D games, but I'm sure there still are people who are made to feel unwelcome at D&D games. That has nothing to do with the game. The game is not racist. It never was, never will be. Okay, it's been proven. So there have been multiple complaints against Wizards of the Coast for racism. And strangely enough, a lot of these complaints are coming from the same individuals who a year ago were complaining, and who Wizards of the Coast went, okay, we hear you. Let's address those issues. We're going to change D&D so it's more inclusive and less racist. And now we have the playtest out for One D&D working title, and it's receiving accusations of racism and being problematic. And then we have Wizards of the Coast announcing they're doing a Lord of the Rings Dungeons and Dragons crossover magic thing. Maybe. And there's accusations of racism about that. Of course, that Lord of the Rings Magic the Gathering thing might not happen. Because if you recall, earlier this week, we informed you that the Lord of the Rings media rights have been purchased by a new company. The same company that does the Tomb Raider franchise and the Star Wars role-playing game franchise and a couple other things have purchased Lord of the Rings rights. And that includes all the gaming rights and all the media rights. Now, they claim that any existing contracts that happened before they purchase it, they're going to fulfill. So Free League Publishing can still make stuff for the One Ring and the 5e Lord of the Rings game they're planning on making for now. Amazon can continue to destroy Lord of the Rings with the Rings of Power for now. Other companies who have been making stuff for Lord of the Rings can continue to make Lord of the Rings t-shirts and baskets and coffee mugs and whatever for now. That might change, which means for now, Wizards of the Coast can still make their Magic the Gathering Lord of the Rings one-shot crossover. And hashtag, no, this does not mean Wizards of the Coast owns Lord of the Rings. No, this does not mean there's going to be a Lord of the Rings D&D book. No, it is a one-shot. Please stop spreading this misinformation. It's hard enough to report on these topics without the shallow end of the 5e pool people going, oh, this means because Wizards of the Coast is doing a Magic the Gathering Lord of the Rings one-shot that Wizards of the Coast owns Lord of the Rings and we're going to see a Lord of the Rings D&D and blah, blah, blah. No, it doesn't. So right now, they're planning on making this. It's supposed to come out sometime next year. There's been accusations of racism in this because, amongst other things, they have changed the way Aragorn looks because they want to make Lord of the Rings more inclusive. And it's their interpretation of Aragorn. So somebody else who isn't, I don't know, I guess me, can look at the magic card of Aragorn and go, yes, I see myself represented because I never saw myself represented before in the, 60, 80 years of Lord of the Rings because there's no POCs in Lord of the Rings. Everybody's just white Anglo-Saxons, except, of course, that's completely untrue. So they've changed the way Aragorn looks so he more resembles a person of color, and that is getting a lot of accusations of reverse racism, as is several of the races in the One D&D playtest are also being called out for being sort of backwards racist. The fact that all orcs have the adrenaline surge ability, more than one 5e individual. And remember, again, a lot of these complaints are coming from the people that Wizards of the Coast is trying to make the game for. So I don't know, Wizards of the Coast, maybe you really need to rethink, because the people who are attacking you aren't me, aren't the OSR. We've given up. We don't care. We're like, just do whatever you want. We're going to just play Castles and Crusades. Hashtags Castles and Crusades. But yeah, these sparkle trolls or whatever you want to call them, the shallow end of the 5e pool, as I refer to them, are complaining about the orcs' adrenaline things. How come all orcs are angry? That's racist. Then there's the little thing about child of multiple races and how there aren't any half elves or half orcs or half carrots in the playtest right now, but they have a little thing about how you could make your own. And that was accused of being racist and I don't know, xenophobic and no cross racism, and it's unfair. There was a thing about the fact that now sign language is a language that anybody can get in in One D&D, if they want to waste their one of 3 language slots on it. You get common tongue, you get a free language from your background now, even though some of those free languages make no bloody sense, and you get to choose a language. And on the list of languages you can choose is sign language. Okay, fine, whatever. I'm sure you can take a class at school to learn sign language, okay? I know sign. I don't know a lot, but apparently that was attacked. How dare you now make it so everybody can know sign language before, only certain people. And if I wanted my character to have sign language, it was intrinsic to the character. My character was special. But now that anybody can have sign language, my character isn't special anymore. And that's racist. That's handicapist. That's deafist. That's, I don't know what other complaints you can come up with because Wizards of the Coast did exactly what you said you wanted them to do, and now you're complaining. And now you're complaining because Wizards of the Coast, you said you wanted to see yourself represented in Wizards of the Coast product. I can't see myself as a hero in the game. I don't see myself represented but now I do. So they're like, okay, you know what? This is our interpretation of Aragorn, so we're going to change the way he looks, because there's no description of Aragorn, really. Sure, every artist ever who has read The Lord of the Rings has drawn him as a pretty much white Viking type dude. But yeah, there's no description. So if we want to make him a person of color, fine. There's no people of color in Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings is very racist because everybody's white except for the orcs. They're the black people, and it's racist against black people. We know these accusations. Except, of course, there are multiple descriptions of the Dunedain and Aragorn clearly stating what he looks like. And as for the accusation that there are no people of color in the whole Lord of the Rings Middle Earth, again, completely untrue because, I don't know, the Southerlings, the Easterlings, the Harad, the Tungir, those just four right there that are people of color. There's some dwarf clans, everybody to the south, I mean, nobody knows, we know very little about the lands beyond Mordor, but there are lands beyond Mordor, There's lands to the east, if you remember the movie, the people on the Oliphants, Easterlings, people of color. There's lands to the west, beyond we have the Shire, and then beyond the Shire we have the ocean, and then beyond the ocean we have where the Valar lives. But there's islands, there's courtiers. We know there's courtiers in Lord of the Rings. They're mentioned in the final battles, how Aragorn took command of the ships of the courtiers along with his ship of the undead, and came around the back way and surprised the armies of Mordor. The Courtiers, multiple racial individuals represented. So people of color exist in Lord of the Rings. Now, just, I don't know, my interpretation, artist's interpretation of Aragorn as he looks like this is because, that's fine. You know what? If you don't want to make a few artistic changes to him, I guess, in the grand scheme of things, that's fine. If you want to blatantly ignore the very clear description of Aragorn as it is presented multiple times, well, that's on you, and that's between you and the Tolkien estate. But the fact that you're making such a point of it, to the point where people are responding negatively. No one's looking at this announcement from Wizards of the Coast of where we're changing the way the characters look and going, yeah, that's really a positive thing. I've never seen myself represented in The Lord of the Rings because it happened in the past and because it's not real. But there, none of that. There's none of that. Okay. And the same thing with the races in the One D&D playtest. People are not going, oh wow, that's a brilliant idea, I really love this, oh this is great, this is amazing, I've always wanted orcs to be treated like this, oh this is the way halflings always should have been, I can now see myself in D&D. No one's saying that. You have the two camps, and then you have the teeny little shallow end of the pool 5e, but they don't count. The shills like Jeannie D and Holmes and Garraby and Willis and these guys, they don't count, okay? The general 5e reaction, the sparkle trolls, is the virtue signalers, the people who have been waving the flag to have Wizards of the Coast change the way things are portrayed in the game, are the ones who are complaining. The OSR aren't complaining. The people who are supposedly the villains in the scenario, my side of the fence, for lack of a better term, the Groganards, the Legacy players, the Nostalgia players, the OSR players, the Castles and Crusades players, hashtag Castles and Crusades, we're not complaining. We're just sort of shaking our heads going, why, Wizards of the Coast? Why? I mean, we're not going to play your game anymore. We're done. We're going to other games. And a large chunk of the 5e crowd is going, why? No. Why, Wizards of the Coast? Why? We're not going to do this anymore. We're either going to stick with what we have, or we're going to go over and play this Castles and Crusades things that we hear so much good about. Then we got the small little shills, the shallow end, who are just like, oh, this is great. I mean, I haven't actually read it, but I think it's great. And then in there, we've got the people going, this is racist. Okay, racist. Changing orcs is racist. Making anybody have ability to have sign language is racist. The cross-race information is racist. The fact that all Dragonborn's breath weapons are now cones is racist and stupid. I mean, yeah, that's just, why would all, that's a separate thing. Aragorn, you changing the perception of Aragorn, racist. The fact that you're advertising it, racist. No matter what you do, Wizards of the Coast, it's wrong. And now, I mean, Wizards of the Coast has no one to blame but themselves, really, when you think about it. Perhaps when this all started 4 or 5 years ago, there was some good intent. As I always say in my defense of Wizards of the Coast, somewhere in the unlimited ultimate timelines, there is a timeline where what Wizards of the Coast intended to do made sense. And you could look at that little scrap of paper and go, oh, yeah, you know what? This is a good idea. I see where you're going with this. But somewhere between that 5 seconds where whatever the idea was made sense, the going through the stupid odometer and coming out to the disasters we have now, Wizards has no one to blame for themselves for the fact that at every corner they're being hit with negative press. They cannot win. Literally, they cannot win. They threw Radiant Citadel out there. Radiant Citadel was a disaster, just this non-stop negativity. In their attempt to be positive and inclusive, they ended up creating a product that basically portrayed a horrible 1984 mind control state where prisoners were tortured by having their brains rewritten and magically brainwashed to do good. And all these people of color, they got to write it. 90% of them had, never got to look at the stuff that after they wrote it, never got edited, and never got play tested. Most of them are like, I don't know what I'm doing. So yeah, and then Wizards of the Coast was like, well, this is a disaster. I mean, they cut the price by 50% at the end of the first week, and then just went, nope. Spelljammer, what's that? Nope. Shadow Wreck Dragon Island, no, those are not the kids. Nope, what's that? Now we're gonna try and push this new One D&D. Except maybe we won't, because, yeah, racism. It's hard to feel sorry for them, but I kind of feel sorry for them. But then they have no one to blame but themselves for the situation they're in. And where do you go from here? No matter what they say, they can't dig themselves out of the hole, even if they want to, and I don't know if they do. Hasbro is going, we're thinking of restructuring. Most of the gaming community, yes, the sales, the numbers, the sales. Yeah, but if you actually look at the individuals and what people are saying, more and more are becoming frustrated and looking at other things besides 5e and One D&D. And One D&D is just sort of adding more fire to the, I don't know what the fuck you're doing anymore, Wizards of the Coast. I'm taking my money elsewhere. So, yeah, this whole Wizards of the Coast is racist because they're changing the way Aragorn looks. That is just the reality now. That is the new norm as far as Wizards of the Coast. Whatever they do is going to be attacked. Not by the people who they think are the villains in the scenario, but by the people they're trying to make happy. That is the irony in all this. Is Wizards of the Coast for the past 5 years has been trying so hard to make this small chunk of the population of the shallow end of the 5e pool happy by embracing this inclusiveness that they actually make things worse. And everything they do is met with the wall of negativity and the accusation of being racist, of not being inclusive. They literally made One D&D because they wanted it to be more inclusive. Everything post Tasha's has been all about this inclusivity that they think people want. But the people who they're trying to make happy are the ones who are now saying, that thing about multiple races, that's racist. Aragorn, racist. Wizards of the Coast, you're racist. And Wizards of the Coast is going, but we gave you what you wanted. Fine, we're done. If I was Wizards of the Coast, I would just say, we're done. I give up. We're not going to make anything for a year. We're just going to focus all our energy in-house on 6th edition, but that's it. We're done with you people. But I'm not them. I don't know what, contractual obligations they have. I don't know what's going on. 2023 is not going to be a good year for Wizards of the Coast unless they step up amazingly. Speaking of which, my stock is doing pretty good according to the ticker down here at the bottom of my screen. So it hasn't affected the overall finances yet. But remember, that's Hasbro stock, not Wizards of the Coast stock. And despite everything that's going on with Wizards of the Coast, Hasbro's still doing pretty good because, they own other things besides D&D. They own this other thing called Magic the Gathering. Perhaps you've heard of it. And My Little Pony. Perhaps you've heard of that. Power Rangers. Maybe you've heard of that. I don't know. I'm the OGGM. If you appreciate the nonsense that's coming out of my mouth, let me know. If you think I have no idea what I'm talking about, let me know. Do you agree? Is changing Aragorn racist? Is the choices that Wizards of the Coast is making in an attempt to try and appease the virtual signalers actually disastrous? Are they actually being racist in their attempt to not be racist? Or do you disagree? Do you think everything they're doing is perfectly fine and there's nothing racist about the choices that they've made? Or are you like me and you just don't care because from now on you're just going to play Castles and Crusades and say, Wizards of the Coast, sorry, I'm done. Hashtag Castles and Crusades, Gary Gygax's real legacy. That's it for me today. Please subscribe. I'll talk to you later. Goodbye.